Hello, BookTube. Well, I have a little bit of mail for you today. The last mail that I will probably get this week, it being the day before a national holiday here in the United States, one of the few national holidays that the country tends to grind to a halt for. Thanksgiving is tomorrow, and Friday is Black Friday, the day of all the famous, after Thanksgiving retail store sales. But I don't know how much I'll get in the way of mail. There's not much today, just a couple of packages and a couple of periodicals that I thought we'd go over. One of the periodicals is the Martha's Vineyard Gazette. It's a broadsheet newspaper from the island of Martha's Vineyard off the coast of Massachusetts. And for this latest issue, there were two stories that I was sure would be in here, but I haven't read it yet, and I'm only seeing one, which is this one. There was an armed robbery in a town on the vineyard. And as far as I know, the suspects are still at large. And there was the whole nine yards, the note, the threat, the tying up the employees, the clean getaway. And here it is. This is, gigantic coverage on the front page. The other story is that in very, very close inland and in the vineyard, close enough so that you could be on a little punt or sailboat and be right on top of it, there was a poor beagle shark. It was seen. It was cruising around at the surface. It was filmed. It was photographed. And I was expecting that to be that for the vineyard, that is front page news, but I don't see it at all here. I imagine it'll be in the next one. Poor beagle sharks are a little bit rare to sight this far inland. They fish and hunt and live well out to sea, well off the continental shelf. So you can sometimes encounter them if you yourself are out on the open water. And you can also encounter them if you go out that far and then are crazy enough to scuba dive. but ordinarily not in the shallows. I guess that's just maybe going to be the next issue of the Vineyard Gazette. But we have this on the front page, and then I look forward to sitting down and reading it. On the back page, there are three columns. There's All Outdoors, there's Vineyard Gardener, and there's a column about books. And those are okay. There's the poor beagle shark. Okay, it wasn't on the front cover. It's in the All Outdoors column. All right, fine. I'll take it either way. These columns are everybody reads them first. That's just the typical thing you do when you get the Gazette. If you're living on the island for any amount of time, you turn right away to the back. And then the other periodical is GQ, Gentleman's Quarterly. This right here, it's Men of the Year. Got a list of the Men of the Year here. Here on the cover, there's Athlete of the Year, Max Verstappen. I have no idea who this person is. I imagine I'll have to read the issue to find out. But I know one thing for sure. Two things for sure. One that flows from the other. The first thing is just to look at him. He is a roasting tobacco addict. Which means that if he's Athlete of the Year, he is athlete in a sport that requires no aerobic exertion. This person does not have the lung capacity to walk up a flight of stairs, much less do track and field. So I'm thinking a video gamer, maybe, or a chess player, or something like that. He might be Athlete of the Year, but whatever his event is, it requires him to sit down because he is not able. In order to be a tobacco addict at this level, he has to have traded his aerobic capacity for a long time, and it doesn't come back. But this is Men of the Year, so I'm kind of hoping that somewhere in here there will be. Actually, let's see if we can quickly see it. Usually with Men of the Year for GQ, they will do a gift guide spread or even a few pages, and those are always interesting to me because some of the things might be, useful. I'll never be able to find it in this mess though, and they might not do it. They might not do it this year. Oftentimes they will do a big 2-page gift guide spread. Now, this is the spreads I'm seeing are mostly bling. They have a weak spot for advertising bling, and of course, bling has no interest for yours truly. So it tends to be the last thing I look at, and I'm not spotting any bigger gift guide in here. Too bad. They might have discontinued it. I would love it because although the items that they include are usually way too expensive, that's what this magazine is for. It's for young men who are conspicuously overpaid. So they have literally all the money in the world. They can buy the latest thing even if they don't think they're going to need it. and they can pay the most for it instead of the least. See, you've got stuff like this. But what's that watch? Do we even want to know? That wristwatch is $7,400. So hardly in my price range, even if I were dumb or recherche enough to use a wristwatch. But I'll look through it. The gift guide could be there. So those were our two periodicals, GQ and Martha's Vineyard. And there's the baby bean. And then we have two packages. Let's see what they are. It could be, I'm thinking that most of the packages that we're going to get in the mail for the rest of the year are going to be 2023 releases. Let's see. Do we have a slip for here? No, we don't. Okay. Yeah, this is 2023. This is March. No paperwork on it, so we'll just read from the book. This is by Rose Hackman, and it is called Emotional Labor, the Invisible Work Shaping Our Lives and How to Claim Our Power. Oops, I blocked the bean there. There we go. She's staring right at you. Emotional Labor. What have we got here? Okay, this is the author's debut. Very good. This is, Flatiron Books? Very nice. Good for her. Is a scathing, deeply researched foray into the invisible, uncompensated work women and minorities are expected to perform every day. Examples of emotional labor, whispered among friends and posted online, are endless. A woman is expected to oversee every last detail of domestic life. A stranger insists you smile more even as you navigate high-stress environment or grating commute. A young female professional is denied a promotion for being deemed abrasive. A nursing assistant must placate her patients while pushing aside fears for her own safety due to a lack of PPE. Okay. All right, let's just keep going. Emotional labor is essential to our society and economy, but it's so often invisible. Many are asked to perform exhausting, draining work at no extra cost. Okay, there are a lot of problems. Keep in mind, this is the cover copy. This is not the book. But there are a lot of problems there. There is no labor in being told to smile more when you walk down the street and being catcalled. You're not being paid anything, much less not enough. And what was that business about? A nursing assistant must placate her patient's fears while pushing aside fears for her own safety due to a lack of PPE. So is the author implying Margaret Atwood-style Handmaid's Tale world in which the PPE is doled out on the basis of sex? You male nursing assistants, here are all the masks. I'm sorry, Matilda, but you're going to have to go in, with a bare face. No, that doesn't happen. Nursing assistants of all kinds, talk about being sexist or offhand sexist, when's the last time nursing assistants were all men? Or all women? And also, I'm not going to rant, it's a debut, but I want to point out something. I want to ask. I mean, I've got 1,000 people watching. I've got 1,000 people listening to me. You know as well as I do that we don't agree on everything, and I like it that we don't agree on everything. So you tell me if I'm wrong. Quite a few of you are married. Quite a few of you are living with partners. Quite a few of you have children. Quite a few, in other words, have a domestic life. What is referred to in this description as a domestic life. So the line, a woman is expected to oversee every last detail of domestic life. How many of you find that true? That wasn't true for my parents in the 1940s. So I don't see... Also, a young female professional is denied a promotion for being deemed abrasive. I would like... I know that the standard lefty stereotype keep in mind, on the radical left end of the spectrum as opposed to the radical right end, I think most of us are right here, talking to each other, smiling at each other, helping each other, right here in the middle. But on the far lefty end of the spectrum, one of the abrasive, hateful rallying cries is that the merest request that you document a claim makes you a knuckle-dragging misogynist, makes you basically a rapist. And yet, I would like an example of a woman executive who was denied a promotion on the grounds of being abrasive and told that. Because that is newsworthy. That, I think, would be newsworthy in America. I think that executive would have cause for action. I'll have to see. I mean, the author is a journalist. based in Detroit. So I'm presuming that there are no straw men in this book. No dumb shibboleths of left-wing Twitter. I'm assuming that every case of emotional labor that she brings up, she can back up. We will see. No, there were no mention. The tagline said women and minorities, but the examples did not mention minorities. I imagine they'll come up. I would like to see. I would love to explore this subject. I don't like the examples that I'm reading on the cover copy, but that's not the author. That's not the book. The book could be far more considered than that. I honestly don't know what that detail about PPE is doing in there. The only reason I can think they would be on this list is if the author or whoever wrote that cover copy is trying to imply that protective gear against a virus is doled out on the basis of sex. And it isn't. If that's emotional labor, that's emotional labor being done by a number of people, a good deal of people. And in the broader sense, I mean, I haven't read this, keep in mind, but in the broader sense, I think we'll have to see how the author pursues it. We'll take it back up again in the new year. But there is a category like this, right? We could even, if she coined this term, we should use it. I don't know that I would go so far as the oppression Olympics of women and minorities. I would say that there's a gigantic subset of people, just people, not check marks, that are expected to perform emotional labor in many, many contexts. I haven't read the book. It'd be interesting to see. I'm almost tempted to read it tonight just to sort of engage with it. But the more I think about it, the more I think there are people whose labor is taken for granted in all kinds of ways. I don't think the author will have to convince me that breaks down according to lines of gender or ethnicity. But think about your own life. There are things you do. I'm not sure that it's right to call it labor either, because it'd be dumb to ask to be paid for it. But there is kind of the bonding cement between the bricks of life. And some people are expected to provide that bonding cement and others aren't. And that's interesting. That element of unseen labor to make things go, that is very interesting. We'll have to see. What the author has to say in the new year. Now we've got one other package, and then we'll be done. And my only hope here is that this is not a double of emotional labor, because doubles are getting a little bit depressing. Okay, no, it's not. All right, great. Oh God. Okay. All right, this is also a 2023 release. This comes out in April, but it bears a similarity with a number of books that we have seen in 2022, all of which have been pulling at Steve's shirt sleeve, trying to say, hey, mister, math is really interesting. I have dutifully read every book I have got. We've seen a lot of them in 2022. I've dutifully read every book I've got that has tried to imply that, and it hasn't worked. They haven't worked. They haven't worked at all. I'm going to keep trying. I know they have my best interests at heart. This next one is by Sarah Hart, and it's called Once Upon a Prime: The Wondrous Connections Between Mathematics and Literature. And then we have Euclid intersecting with Moby Dick. So let's see what kind of trouble we get into with this one here. This is for fans of 7 Brief Lessons in Physics. That was by Carlo Rovelli. Was very good, but there wasn't a whole lot of math in that book. This is an exploration of the many ways mathematics can transform our understanding of literature and vice versa, by the first woman to hold England's oldest mathematical chair. Transform our understanding of literature? I don't want you bringing your cosines into Moby Dick. Let's see. We often think of mathematics and literature as polar opposites. As well we should. As different as they come. But what if instead they were inextricably, even fundamentally linked? Fundamentally linked? Okay. All right. Okay. In her clear, insightful, laugh-out-loud funny debut. Oh, wow. So we have 2 nonfiction debuts. That's fantastic. Once Upon a Prime, Professor Sarah Hart shows us the myriad connections between math and literature, and how understanding those connections can enhance our enjoyment of both. Did you know, for instance, that Moby Dick is full of sophisticated geometry? No, I didn't know that. Because it's not. That James Joyce's stream of consciousness novels are deliberately checkered with mathematical references. They are, but Joyce specifically did that to make them more incomprehensible, not less. That was the specific understanding, was that if the more of that he included, the more readers he would alienate. That George Eliot, oh, you're bringing George Eliot into that George Eliot was obsessed with statistics. No, no. She was obsessed with the product of statistics, with what we can learn about statistics. She wasn't obsessed with how to do statistics. She wasn't obsessed with the mathematics part of it at all. I'm yelling at another author. That Jurassic Park is undergirded by fractal patterns. No, no, Professor Hart. No. Jurassic Park is undergirded by a hack at a typewriter. That Arthur Conan Doyle, oh my God. She's hitting all my favorite authors. That Arthur Conan Doyle and Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie wrote mathematician characters. Well, okay, yes, and it's a little bit blurry with Adichie, but in Arthur Conan Doyle's case, the mathematic character is the villain. It's Professor Moriarty. There's a connection not between math and literature, but between math and social deviance. She mentions Erasmus, I'm done for. From sonnets to fairy tales to experimental French literature, Professor Hart shows how math and literature are complementary parts of the same quest to understand human life and our place in the universe. Okay. Well, this is, and just in case any of you were wondering about that chair, Dr. Hart is the 33rd Gresham Professor of Geometry. So the chair has been held in an unbroken lineage since 1597, and she's the first woman to occupy it. How's that for embarrassing? That is downright embarrassing. If that isn't, I'm talking about emotional labor, if that is not, because previous holders of that chair, I guarantee you, plenty of those men were totally upheld by the women doing the calculations in the lab. Oh my, talk about emotional labor. That is deeply embarrassing. But that doesn't make it right. so I will read this when it comes out in April. I'm also now curious to know, and maybe it might entertain some of you. I'm curious to know if this author might be up for an interview. So we can hash it out together. That might be a lot of fun. I actually might like to talk to both these authors. One of the things that if I come back in 2023, and I'm at all interested in books, one of the things that I want to do is more interviews with authors. I want to make that a regular thing. I love doing it. The authors tend to love doing it, not to toot my own horn, but many, many authors have said to me, that was really enjoyable, let's do it again. And you all seem to really enjoy it, because it's not a kind of staticky NPR interview where the interviewer clearly hasn't read the book and knows nothing about the author. I like the experience just from start to finish. So I would like to do that, more of that. We'll have to see. But these are the two books, two nonfiction debuts, Emotional Labor and Once Upon a Prime, both of them trying to challenge, sort of a static viewpoint. Great. Fantastic. Great to know that this fascinating nonfiction is out there in the new year. That is fantastic. And that is the mail. Now, there's not going to be any mail tomorrow. And considering how heavily unionized the mail delivery system is in America, I doubt that there'll be any mail delivery on Friday. But these mail deliveries, mail is a nice extra on the channel, right? It's not essential. So we'll find something else to talk about. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. That was the mail, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.